The time is 7 o'clock.
I greet you all this evening, and yes, I decided to use this song, Ekueme, and I will be using it as the underbed for our program today. It is sad for those who do not know. I'm sure you do know that Osinachi Nwachukwu, a woman who has blessed so many homes and so many lives, today is no longer with us because she had apparently been just absorbing and trying to hide the trouble that she was in her marriage. And today, she's no longer with us. I mean, is there anyone who would listen to a song like this, Ekueme, and not just, feel it to the spirit? I am so happy today. Unfortunately, it's coinciding. I had managed to snag a very big fish. This was way before now. However, this Sister Osinachi's death just has taken the wind out of my sails, kind of. But still, I am glad that today I have with me live in the studios. For those who know that I was able to get Reverend Father George Odafe for 1 hour, no less, in the studio live with us to come talk to us about marriage, what the church from the Catholic perspective says about some of these situations that we have been talking about even before now. Of course, my greetings go out to Reverend Joe Adejo, Pastor Patience Dodo, and Mr. Emmanuel Ogbaki, who have given us, the space to be with Father George Odafe. He is the Dean of Studies at the Good Shepherd Seminary here in Kakao. For those who know, you know. It's not an easy task, so I pat myself on the back for having gotten Father George Odafe. Without wasting much time, let me welcome him formally. Father, it's great to have you with us here.
Thank you very much. I feel very honored to be here. And good evening, listeners.
We are indeed very honored to have you, Reverend Father George Odafe. And so I'm going to start with Osinachi Nwachukwu's matter. This woman is an example of what so many Christian women, and I dare say Christian men, are also going through in their homes, where abuse is hidden until it can no longer be. For many people, many Christians, they say, this is how God wants it to be. It's a cross that you have to carry. After all, when you got married, it was for better, for worse. Father George, what is the position of the church and even the Bible as we see it from the Catholic perspective?
Any threat to life is not encouraged in Catholic teaching in marriage. In fact, in the Catholic Church, we do not know divorce. What we know and teach and practice is nullity. By nullity, we imply that from the beginning there was no marriage. But when the marriage is validly contracted in the church and during the course of the couple living together and threat to life comes, we encourage separation in the hope that during the course of separation, help will be sought for the person who is who needs help. And when during the course of that separation, it gives the parties in the marriage the breathing space to seek for help. And normally before the separation takes place, the priest is involved, and he encourages it and seeks ways by which the separation can be made, and then 6 ways to seek for psychological help for the one who really needs the help. And it is meant for the safety of life in the marriage, because life comes first. Genesis chapter 1 verse 26 and 27 tells us that each life has the image and likeness of God in it, and we all have the imperative and the calling to protect it. So the church does not encourage any form of threat to life. And that is the teaching that the Catholic Church holds in matters like this.
Mm.
And even in the Bible too, the sanctity of life is one that is highly promoted on the basis that it is God who gives life, and He knows the best time on which for which life can be taken. Again, going back to Genesis chapter 1 from verse 26 to 27, which teaches that God created us in His image and likeness. The dignity of life is even held in Psalm 8 from verse 5, that says God created us little less than Himself. Some other translations will say God created us like the angels, gave us dignity, crowned us with dignity and honor, and put us charge over the work of His hands. And that means every life, in whatever circumstance of life or calling, is to be respected and upheld up the natural end. And that is what everyone is expected to practice.
So any woman listening at this time, or even man who is going through some form of abuse in their marriage, what would your advice be?
She should speak out, and she should seek help from any respected member of the society. And if she's not listened to, she should shout the louder. And honestly, for the sake of the safety of her life, after speaking out to her pastor or to her imam or to any respected member of the society and they do not listen, I think she should take measures to save her life first. When that has been done, then the process of healing the marriage can begin gradually. So she should speak out. She shouldn't keep quiet.
Right.
She shouldn't keep. She has the obligation to protect her life as a human being. So she should speak out. She shouldn't keep quiet.
So it's not a cross that she has to carry.
No,
it is not a situation of for better, for worse.
The concept of carrying of cross is quite different from the perspective in which people are tying down this issue of women or men in various kinds of oppressions and violence in their marriage to stay. The cross here demands walking according to the teachings of Christ and living by it. Now, walking according to the teachings of Christ does not demand staying in a union that threatens life. There's no portion of the gospel that speaks about that. Not even the teaching of the Catholic Church does not encourage it. And it is for this reason that the Church allows for separation, so that help can be given to those affected, and the healing of the marriage can begin gradually. Then reconciliation takes place, and then the couple are brought together to continue living their marital life. So that is what it should be.
For instance, a Catholic who is going through this has been to see the priest, and the priest seems to be, well, I'm not saying it has happened, but if the priest seems to be saying, you can work this out, go back home, but this is abuse that you have been suffering, what would you suggest that such a person do?
Every Catholic priest knows that he is not to encourage abuse in any marriage. From the moment it is established that there's abuse going on in that marriage, the first step he takes is to encourage separation between the partners in the marriage, and then begins those processes I talked about earlier on how to create healing, and then reconciliation, and then the partners that make up the couple are brought together to continue living their marital life. So he knows forthwith, except if the abused does not give him the full detail that enables him to come to a convincing judgment that life is at stake here. But if he is aware of that, he will make moves for the safety of the person that is abused in the marriage.
Okay.
He will surely encourage it.
All right, so just so that you know, we are live on Facebook, so you can actually go on Facebook now, drop your questions, your reactions, so that we can take them. I will be opening up the lines shortly so that people can ask questions in real time from Father George or Dafe. But quickly, before I open up the phone lines, I'd like to ask you, Padre, about another situation. We had a woman who came in to say, she had children, 3 children actually, 1 7, 1 5, and 1 1.5 years old.
Yes.
And she had them for another man. She's married to another man and has these 3 children for another man. And she said 5 years into their marriage, there was no issue. They went to the hospital where they discovered that the husband actually had some issues and they were given medication. But in that very month, she took in for another man. And this is the man now who has impregnated her for the first, second, and third child. Now, this created quite a debate in-house, because there were those who were of the mind that once she has confessed her sin to the Lord, there would be no need to really confess this to her husband, because the fallout from confessing to the husband would be most likely negative and would affect even the children, since she had actually said even the man pays the school fees for the children and all of that. And of course, in the course of of this talk, it came up that in the Catholic Church, this is one of the reasons why they say people should just confess to the Reverend Father, because of course Christ said we should confess our sins to one another, and to those whose sins are retained, if you retain them, they are retained. If you absolve them of it, they are absolved. So this is where the confusion came in. A woman like this, Father George, what is the position of the church? What would you say about this particular matter?
Well, there are some details of the matter that need to be known before an adequate counseling or suggestion can be made on this matter. But on the basis of what you just said, the teaching of the Catholic Church on confession is based on John chapter 20 from verse 19 to 23, where after the resurrection, which is very significant to state, after the resurrection, because Jesus' death on the cross was for the forgiveness of the sin of mankind. One would have expected that after his death, that should have ended it all. But after the resurrection, he still empowered the apostles with the power to forgive sins. And the teaching of the Catholic Church holds that that power has remained in an unbroken chain in the Catholic Church in the priesthood up to this day. And against the backdrop of the content of the words of Jesus in that portion of the Gospel of John, the Church teaches that once one has confessed his sin to a priest, it remains confessed. And God has forgiven, and the sin is not remembered completely. Not even the priest himself remembers what was confessed to him. Against that backdrop, honestly, if the woman has confessed her sin and has received absolution, because Jesus said in John chapter 20 from verse 19 to 23, that those whose sins you forgive, they are forgiven; those whose sins you retain, they are retained. So God himself has forgiven, and God does not retain if the priest has forgiven. So she shouldn't tell the man. But there are moral issues here involved, deep-seated moral issues. That is why I say there are aspects of the story that need to be known before an adequate position can be taken on it. The Catholic Church also still encourages that the man should be informed not on the basis of because she has confessed her sin, but because of the moral issues that are involved. But the processes of informing the man is where the problem is.
Okay.
Because the first element to be held is the value, the dignity, and the sanctity of the marriage. If it is going to rock the value, the sanctity, and the dignity of the marriage, then the man should not be informed. But where the woman is moved in conscience and justice to have the man know that the children that live in his house are not his, the church recommends that the priest should be involved. And technically here, the priest should play the Nathan role. In 2 Samuel chapter 12, we are given the story of Nathan, the prophet Nathan, who went to David and gave him a parable of something he was involved in. And David reacted vehemently. Such a person who committed the offense of taking the only sheep that belonged to a poor man while he had more than he needed should be dealt with. And then Nathan said, "You are the one." And so that role that Nathan plays should be undertaken by the priest. And I think it shouldn't apply to the priest, but to other sects in Christianity, and see what the reaction of the man will be. The way the reaction comes determines the next step to be taken and the processes to be followed. And if the reaction is going to involve one that may affect the complete dignity of the marriage, then care should be taken. The man shouldn't be informed. But there are dangers here, because such matters don't lie low completely for life. They may billow out someday. So the woman should also be told the implications of the silence, if she can wait for it to blow out by itself. So these factors is this story you just told me is a very dicey story. One does not make a forthright conclusion on it, because like I said, there are issues that are not furnished. But if the woman has gone for sacramental confession, then there is no need to tell the man. But for her to have raised the matter up means she's moved by conscience.
Right.
So the methodology of telling the man now should be the factor that should be taken in. One that should involve getting to know first what the man's reaction is, and then the next step to be taken, so that the marriage is the dignity of the marriage is respected.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask then that would this now mean, Padre, that a man, for instance, who had a moment of weakness and had an affair, committed adultery with a woman,
Yeah.
and this woman fell pregnant for him,
Yes.
and he now realizes that he has a child outside his marriage, that would this now mean that were a man like that to come to the priest to confess that this is what I have done and I know it is wrong because I stepped outside the vows of my marriage, would this now mean that this man does not, if the priest indeed grants him
Absolution.
would this now mean that this man, like you said, a very dicey situation, but not obligated? I don't know whether the use of the word
Yes,
obligated is right.
obligated.
Not obligated to tell his wife. Is this what it would be?
It depends on the circumstance and the reason behind the action. The priest may advise him in good conscience to act on good conscience. And good conscience here requires that he is taught what is the right thing to do, and then he's left to make judgment, because the priest sits at confession to act on behalf of God, but the final decision is left to the penitent who came for confession. So I know that most priests will advise him in good conscience to act in the right manner, and some of them will even ask him that it will be necessary he lets his wife know about it, because like I said, matters like this never lie low quietly forever. They always somehow somewhere rear their heads out. So advising the person to act in conscience, not obligating him to go and tell his wife, would arise.
Okay, so this is where I open up the phone lines. I know people have questions, and like I said, it's a rare opportunity to have Reverend Father George Odafe with us in the studio. So yes, the lines are open, and of course I'll be checking up on our Facebook page to see if there are any comments, but the numbers are 081 40,000 989 and 070 87 800 989. Once again, that's 081 40,000 989 and 070 87 800 989. I see the calls beginning to knock themselves away, but hopefully, since we're starting early, we'll be able to take as many calls as we can today. Hello. Good evening.
Good morning. Sorry, good evening.
Good evening, sir. You're welcome.
Yeah, this is.
Hello.
Yes,
Just go ahead, sir, with your question.
I cannot hear you.
good. Just want to contribute. Mine is a contribution.
Okay. Go ahead, please. I was looking more for questions, but go ahead, please.
Yes, in form of a question and a contribution.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
In the aspect of the Bible and marriage, I was thinking the only underlying factors in which separation of marriage could be permitted is only on the ground of infidelity.
Okay.
Here is probably your guest talking about an abuse. An
Yes.
abuse was never stated in the Bible as one of the grounds in which marriage could be separated.
Okay.
And even sorry, can I still press a little further? And
Okay, please let's just make it quick because there are others trying to get through.
Yeah,
Yes.
even at the infidelity, forgiveness is allowed. You can forgive. The essence why you should not separate is to give room for forgiveness. And on the ground of there is this other topic you made me.
We started with the story of this sister, the gospel singer, who died now due to physical abuse in her marriage.
Yes.
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 And
You see,
yes.
Yeah, one thing about Christianity is that the body of a man has a soul and a spirit. Our activity does not end here. You must take that into into factor anytime you are discussing the issue of Christianity. You must take every of your actions as its internal aspect of it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, what the question I'm getting, Father, is that he has an issue with you saying that a woman is permitted or a man is permitted to seek for separation in matters of abuse, particularly physical abuse. So if you would just hang on to that, let's take another call. So many calls coming in. Hello, good evening. Please step away from your radio.
Yeah, good evening, ma.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yes, just go ahead.
Yeah, this is Joseph.
You're welcome, Joseph. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I have there is a week. About a month ago, there was this discussion that you come up with as regards a lady that had issues. So in trying to, she had issues with her husband, and so that she is left to either to confess to the husband or to go and meet a pastor to confess to him. Are you there?
Yes.
Good. Now, I'd like the Reverend Father to please make clarity, because that very day there was a disagreement between your the
resource
Pastor,
person,
Mrs. Dodo, and
right,
with the other pastor. So I want the pastor, the Reverend Father there to strike a balance, because at that very day we tried calling but we couldn't. But we have, I think, I was with Pastor Mrs. Dodo on that. So if he can be able to strike a balance, who should the woman go and confess to? That if she confess to the husband, her house will be broken. And then let her just confess to the pastor, and if the pastor declares forgiveness to her, it's okay. For me, it doesn't work that way.
Okay,
so please,
all right.
Let the Reverend Father please give a clarity. I'm grateful. Thank you.
It seems as if you just joined us, but I'm sure the Father will go over this matter again. Like I told you, this particular matter, it caused a lot of uproar. Obviously, a lot of people were not clear. Pastor Dodo was saying, and Mr. Ogbaki, by the way, that she had to do the right thing and confess even after forgiveness from God, because every sin has its consequences.
Sure.
But Reverend Joe Adejo said, look, it wasn't an obligation for her to do so.
Yes.
So you can hear it again that it's coming back. So you need to talk about it again. And of course, the first person who talked about the fact that it is only under unfaithfulness, infidelity, that the Bible gives you some loophole to squeeze through if you had to divorce your spouse. So
now, regarding the first caller, thank you so much for your...
We have so many calls, by the way, quickly.
Yeah, thank you so much for your call. I think you misunderstood my concept of separation. I didn't mean divorce. Yeah, if I had meant divorce, that would have meant a permanent breakage of the marriage. And moreover, you were talking about Matthew chapter 19, where Jesus said that unless on the grounds of... It depends on the translation. Different sects in Christianity give you different translation. I like to go back to the Greek text, because actually I teach New Testament Greek. In the Greek text, the word that Jesus Christ used there is porneia, and that has caused so much confusion in interpretation among even biblical scholars. There is no conclusion. Some sects take the grounds of adultery, some sects take the grounds of fornication. The Greek word porneia means fornication. So you cannot fornicate in marriage. You fornicate when one of the two persons involved in the sexual relationship is married, or the two of them are involved. So it means Jesus wasn't really saying on the grounds of infidelity should there be divorce, should there be divorce in marriage. And it is because of this interpretation that the Catholic Church doesn't talk about divorce at all. Like I said, we talk about nudity. Now, by the separation I meant there is put them apart over a period of time. And like I said, if the listener had listened to me, I said so that the processes of healing the cause of the fracas in the marriage will be healed, and after that the partners in the marriage are reconciled and brought together to continue to live their married life. So to the first caller, I didn't mean divorce. What I mean, some form of distance created between them. And then, like I said, a priest will be involved in the healing processes. If he requires psychological help, if he requires the help of the Catholic community, often in the Catholic Church, people belong to different groups and associations. The heads of those groups and associations are involved in the processes of discussion. Even the priest may even bring in the family members of both of the couple, of the partners in the marriage, and then they discuss the processes, reconcile issues, listen to the two of them separately, bring them together. After solutions have been found, then they tell them how to now begin to live their life going forward. When those things have been settled and difference is seen in the person who is abusing, then the couple is brought together. I did not mean separation in the statement I made regarding the first caller. Now, the second caller, if, like you said, if he had been listening from the beginning of the program, he would have understood that I had given opinions on that matter. Like I said, against the backdrop of John chapter 20 from verse 19 to 23, sacramental confession takes care of those matters. Once a person has confessed such matters, he's not obliged to tell that other partner, but in conscience should tell the partner. And the manner in telling the partner is where the problem now arises. And the event or the situation also has to be judged to see if to see the manner that is best fitting. And here we are talking about marriage. We in the Catholic Church take seriously the value, the sanctity, and the dignity of marriage. These three factors come together, and how to keep it going, especially when it is validly, I repeat, the adverb validly contracted. If the marriage is validly contracted, we do not believe in divorce. There is no nullity in this case, in the case. So whatever comes up in the marriage, all that is made is effort towards healing the processes. So, like I suggested, the role of Nathan in 2 Samuel chapter 12 is very important. The priest will definitely play that role in trying to find out what the man's reaction will be. And whatever reaction that comes from the man determines the next step that will be taken towards finding a lasting solution to the problem that might arise.
But if one was to ask you, Father, that did the woman, by the very act of having 3 children outside her marriage, not already break the sanctity, dignity, and...
No, she has.
Okay.
In the process, it affected but did not break it up, since the matter is not a public one. However, I must confess that to have done it the first time, the second time, the third time is quite a serious matter. And that's where, even at the confessional, the priest will advise her to act in good conscience. So that acting in good conscience would what will lead to that whole process. But her infidelity in the marriage does not necessarily require even divorce. In the Catholic Church, we do not encourage such matters, and it is on that basis that the priest would advise her in good conscience to act well in justice to the man, and then those processes will be initiated and carried on.
Okay, I can tell you, Father, that you are not saying the popular,
yes,
popular,
I know.
what people want to hear is not what you're saying.
I know.
But it is what the Bible says that we really need here. So I see your all the greetings on Facebook. I appreciate all of you, but let me quickly I see the calls. Please just give me a moment. Let me take some of the reactions here on Facebook. Shehu Iriafin is saying, good evening, sir. Having been absolved by the priest, what about the continuous living in lies? Is that not a potential sin? And Ayuba Shaibu says, good evening. For the wise, is there room for separation in the Bible? If yes, under what condition and for how long? I think Father has answered this, but you might want to say something about it again. David Gideon is saying, I beg your pardon. Isaac Lan is saying, warm regards to Reverend Father George. Peace be with you always, as well. Amen. As okay, thank you so much, Isaac Lan. Okay, he says he loves the position of Father George. Well, I can tell you, Isaac, that you are one of a very few, because even me, I was expecting something different. Okay, David Gideon says that okay, we're in the end times. May God's grace help us all to overcome evil temptations.
Amen.
All right. Don Terry says, I go with Father. They should go separate ways first to avoid one killing one, please. All right, let's go quickly back to the phone lines. The lines are buzzing. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, ma.
You're welcome, sir. Go ahead, please, quickly.
Good evening,
Good evening.
The area I'm confused is the area that confession is repeated to. Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
we can hear you. Please
Okay.
make it fast,
confession is
please.
repeated to the Reverend Father based on the activity of the matter, like the conflict in the home.
Your line is not too clear, sir.
Yes.
You said your problem is with this issue of confession, right? Hello? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
The area I'm confused.
Yes. Uh-oh. We cannot hear you. I don't know what's going
I
on.
mean, based on the activity of.
Please, can you try us back, sir? There are so many calls and we cannot hear you really. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, ma.
Yes, you're welcome.
I have a question to ask.
Yes.
So I want to know if, for example, this woman who came out to make her conscience to be clear,
Yes.
if she went to confess to Reverend Father or Pastor, and she refused to confess to the husband,
Yes.
because those children now, she know that they are not this man's children, you know. So if she went and confessed to Pastor or Reverend Father, and she refused to tell her husband, who and after when maybe when this time will come, when the man will come to claim those children, what will she say then?
Okay.
That's my question. I ask
All
him
right.
again. If she did not confess to the husband, and her conscience will not be clear, maybe God wants her to confess to the husband. Let two of them as setting the issue. You understand me? And that
Okay.
is my question there.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes. Please hold on. Let Father get to these questions. I see the calls, but let's take them
Yes.
one at a time. Father, a lot of people, I told you this
Yes.
particular matter, so are we saying when people commit adultery and they go
No.
to the Reverend Father and they are granted absolution, does this mean that, they don't need any confession to their spouses? But I'll also tell you that there's a particular situation on ground now where a woman actually went out with her pastor and the man found out, and even though he has forgiven her, time and again he finds himself bitterness welling up in him when he looks at her. So what do Father?
It depends on the quality of counseling given to the man after the situation had been settled, because every situation requires a great deal of healing. We do not expect immediate psychological change in people. So, and in such situation, it also demands some follow up on the man, continuous counseling over a period of time. The mistake we make, especially in our part of the world, is we tell the person, be a man, or tell the woman, be a woman, be strong, while the person psychologically is being broken inside. So some degree of help over a period of time is very essential in order to create complete healing on the man. So, and when that is not given, you obviously expect some negative reaction, because the man may forgive and for some reason allow the marriage to remain with the woman, but he may not forget. And those memories will always come up in one time or the other. So the quality of healing given is very essential.
Okay.
And now regarding the question asked by the last caller, if the last caller had listened to me, I said repeatedly that should be, after each confession, there is a period of counseling given by the priest. After each. And the counseling will always include acting in good conscience, especially in matters like this. It's not every circumstance of confession that demands situations that demands solutions of this nature. We are talking here of children and marriage, children not belonging to the man, and the possibility of the real father of those children coming up in the future to be a little dastardly. In a situation where possibly these children may be better placed in the future than his own, in quotes, biological children. Right. He may want to reclaim this one's back. And these scenarios may be created in the woman's mind to enable a proper solution to be given to this development. So it is on this note that in good conscience, the man will be advised to look for better ways to deal with this issue on how the man may be brought to know of what has happened. And this is where, again, I repeat, the Nathan solution. the first step to begin is to know what the man's reaction will be, and that will determine the steps. After knowing his reaction, that will determine the next step to be taken. And I believe when in this case the pastor or the priest and the members of the Christian community are involved in it, it will help in dealing with the situation. Like I said at the beginning of this evening's engagement, that there are details that are not given. Did the man know that he was sterile before the marriage? The tests that were carried out, did the man know that he has difficulties in procuring children, or that he has gotten to the level of sterility? Because if the man knew, after the first baby came, he would have asked, come, my dear, where did this one come from? Following the available medical reports, I am not capable. So these are issues. That's why I said it's not a straightforward answer to be given. And in my 23 years of priesthood, I have known men who have permitted their wives to go and do such things.
But is it Christianly? Is it biblical? Is it something? Is it a sin or not?
When you follow the story of Hagar in the Bible, where Sarah permitted Abraham to have a child for her through Hagar, she was invariably implementing a Semitic culture that allowed for such things. I think in Africa too, we practice it in some parts of Africa up to quite recently. So directly, it's not biblical. There's no biblical passage that permits it. But for some reason belonging to gentlemen, let me take it that way, gentleman and gentlelady agreement, some men have done that. And some women have come back in conscience after it to react like the way this lady has just reacted. It is the reason at the beginning I said there are details. One has to have every detail regarding this issue before one can make a proper counseling on the situation.
Because the reason why I'm asking, Father, is if the people are calling so much, but if a couple find out that they are unable to have children together, and behind closed doors decide that, or one partner suggests that I could actually go out, if it's the woman, or the man says I could actually go out to have a child for us, is it something that would be accepted by the church simply because they agreed?
The church does not directly accept that. Instead, the church will encourage them to adopt. That's what the church will do, encourage them to adopt. After all, in adopting the child or adopting children, they also contribute to the larger human society in bringing up people that we serve God and humanity in different dimensions. That's what the church will do, encourage them to adopt.
Okay. Kinde Paul, I see your greetings. Many people thanking you, Padre, for your submissions this evening.
Thank you very much.
And Noel Etofolam, I hope I pronounced that well, is saying, good evening. When a couple marry before God, they take an oath before God, and one of them breaks the covenant between them. I believe the only way the dignity of the marriage could be reserved is by the offending party telling his or her partner where they have erred. Also, the children have the right to know who their biological father is. They can never enjoy real peace until there is real honesty and sincerity amongst a married couple. Well, thank you very much, Father. This is in reaction.
Yeah, for this, I would say the problem is not telling the man, it's the nature, manner, and the process of telling the man that is very significant here. Yes, an aspect of the marriage has been dented by the action of the woman, but it still does not warrant divorce according to the teaching of the church, because what the church holds very paramount is that the marriage was validly, I still repeat, validly contracted. Once it is validly contracted, for better, for worse, whatever comes up in the process of the marriage demands healing, reconciliation, and moving forward. This reaction you just read spoke about the children needing to know who their real father is. All these are not the problem. The problem is the process of resolving the matter. That is what is very important. But coming out full blown to look for looking for a full blown, straightforward solution does not always solve problems. It often complicates problems. Can complicate problem even for the children. So the way, the manner, and the process of resolving the matter is what is very important. Yes.
The lines are buzzing, Father George. Let's go to the calls. Hello, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
You're welcome, sir. All right, go ahead, sir. We're running out of time.
I respect the Reverend gentleman, and I agree with all his submissions. So, because reporting the matter to the husband, you have to think of the after effect, and you have to think of the children, as he has rightly said.
But
Yes.
I think a lot of people have a problem with the living in deceit. Do you have a question, sir? Let me go to the next call. Thank you so much.
No, just hold on, madam. Again, in respect of the Oshina, that baby
Yes.
Christian singer,
Yes.
I agree with the Reverend Father also. There's
Okay.
no point in keeping a marriage when one or the other is abusing it.
Okay.
The
Well, the
person is the
father did
person.
not talk about divorce, though. He said separate. There's a difference.
That's what I said. Separation. You know, then the matter will find itself whether they will finally go their own way and this and that. It's not going to be with the church matter.
Okay.
Because life is what matters. Look at those 4 children now.
Yeah, indeed, a
So what
very
they are going to
sad
pass
story.
through.
Thank you so much, sir. I needed to let you go there. Thank you so much. Hello, good evening. Do you have a
Hello,
question?
good evening, Madam
Yes.
Jacqueline.
You're welcome. Do you have a
Good evening
question?
to our daddy in the studio, it's Francis.
You're welcome, Mr. Francis. Do you have a
Honestly,
question?
It's not a question really. I want to get to daddy for his speech, and the only thing I want to contribute in this issue is that even though the woman have confessed to the vicar or the reverend, I think it's necessary as well, because
You're still
what
having
comes to my mind
problems
is
with that.
this word of restitution.
Yes.
The husband needs to know, just like Father has rightly said, he knows that he himself cannot do that. And the woman has been producing 3 good times, he did not react. Definitely, he knows that the wife is doing that. And just like Reverend said, there are procedures of doing it. So, by the time she is going to do that with a priest, to the privately, I don't think there is a, but the husband needs to know. That is how I'm feeling about it. Thank you.
All right. A lot of people saying the husband needs to know. They cannot imagine.
He needs to know, but the process
By
is very
which he
important
is told.
because the safety of marriage comes in. There's no straitjacket way of dealing with this matter. There are different dimensions that will be looked into and followed. And believe me, when those dimensions are looked into and followed, it will be resolved amicably. And I'm talking from experience. There have been quite recent incidents like this that were beautifully resolved by the processes in which it went. The man even went as far as speaking with the biological father of the children and enabling him to understand that the dignity of the children here, as far as this matter is concerned, is to be respected until they are of the age when the children may be brought to the knowledge of what has happened. And the biological father said he has no problem with it. They can go on and live their life happily with it. So it's the process. But the whole thing of she must go and tell the man directly, except if she knows the man so well as to receive the news without a problem. But if she does not know the man so well as to receive the news without a problem, they should follow processes. And that's why I'm still recommending again the Nathan approach. Yes.
Oh, Father. Now, so many calls, Father. I don't know if we can finish this today, but hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, my dear sister. How are you doing?
You're welcome. I'm doing great. Please ask your question quickly.
Yeah, Pastor John on the line, calling from the line.
You're welcome.
Yes, I love how far the Reverend Father has gone, but my challenge is, what happens if after the husband discovers, let's assume in the first issue, and the woman got angry, leave the house and go and marry? Can the husband remarry? Go and marry another man and start giving children?
If a woman leaves her husband, is this what you are saying? If a woman leaves her husband in anger,
after discovering that the child she got is outside of.
okay, after realizing that the man has a child outside wedlock, right?
No, the man discovered.
Oh, okay.
That she's living in infidelity.
Yes.
When the man discovered it, she got angry, leave the man, go and marry someone else.
Okay, the pronouns are confusing me, but I think what he's saying is if this particular case,
yes.
if the man finds out later,
yeah.
if the woman, for instance, says, "Father, I don't want him to know,"
yes.
you have to respect that.
Sure.
Okay, so if after the man finds out
yes.
some other way,
yes.
can he divorce this woman? Does the Bible recognize that? I mean, this is unfaithfulness, adultery. And can he divorce her?
There's no place in the Bible that allows it for divorce to take place on that ground. Simply because the only text of the Bible that even in quotes permits this is Matthew chapter 19, and even that is still debated. Some translation says, yeah, divorce can take place on the grounds of adultery. Jesus Christ says separation can take place on the grounds of porneia, fornication. That is not the Greek word for adultery. There's a specific Greek word for adultery. So why didn't Jesus use that Greek word, morkeia, in that part of the New Testament? He used porneia. It means there's a history behind that word. And that's why it is very essential that in trying to interpret the Bible, one should be careful in looking at it through the prism of the 21st century. The entire content of the Bible was presented to us from the backdrop of the socio-cultural orientation of a group of people who lived 2,000 years ago. Jesus publicly preached in Aramaic language that is spoken in only one part of the world today. The Catholic Church in Iraq uses it to celebrate Mass. No other part of the world. Anywhere you hear of Aramaic now is within the academic circles.
Not even in Israel.
Not even in Israel. They have their Hebrew language that even when you see their modern books, it is consonantal. You don't see any vocalic representation, but they know how to read it and pull out the vocalic sounds that are in the word. So Jesus taught publicly in Aramaic because most of his followers were ordinary, everyday people, and a few of it was the most popular language at the time. While Hebrew language, as it is, was used only in religious worship, predominantly. In religious worship. And when the Bible, the New Testament was to be written, it was written in Greek. And the Greek in which it was written was not classical Greek. It was written in what is called Koine Greek, which is equivalent to the pidgin English we speak today, not even the good English. So like, for instance, in English, an average Nigerian say, "I don't chop," it means I've eaten. Why chop means to cut something by a single blow into two. So there are many words in the New Testament used in the biblical sense with different meanings. So the argument still going on among scholars is, why was porneia used, not morkeia, the Greek word for adultery? So that is why there is difficulty in saying the Bible says this. Though I confess here that some sects in Christianity translate that portion as saying on the grounds of adultery there can be divorce. Some say on the Catholic edition, especially there's a new one now translation. They said Catholic edition with Anglicanized text. That one says fornication. So now there's a big history behind it, and unfortunately we don't have the time to go into that. I would have gone into the history. So there's no specific text that in such situation in the Bible that demands for immediate divorce in the New Testament. We might have implied ones in the Old Testament, but it still does not really exist, and you cannot find it directly in the Old Testament because the Old Testament itself, as it is, does not have such things existing in their culture. For instance, the Old Testament never talks about fornication because it will not happen. By 14, the girl has been married off. By 17, 18, the young man has been engaged to someone. So it's only the liberal sense and direction of the New Testament. That's why you find Paul in Galatians chapter 5 talking about, I think from verse 21 to 22, talking about those things that are not of the Spirit, where he mentioned fornication, and some other portions in the 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus, when he was giving those leaders of churches instructions on how to handle the pastoral areas entrusted into them. So there's no direct text. So that's why I said matters are not taken on a straitjacket level. You have to look at conditions. A lot of issues have to be looked into before these matters can be dealt with.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we have someone here asking that, talking about the validity and sanctity of marriage, what about a woman or man who realize that the boyfriend or the husband, brought the wife brought these things are confusing. I think the text is everything is just saying that the husband brought a woman who he was having an affair with to their marriage, to their wedding. Okay. So is such a marriage valid?
If that wedding in the mind of the man was meant to be a sham, the marriage is invalid because there is deceit. Deceit is one of the strong reasons for making a marriage invalid ab initio. Even if they stood on the altar and a priest was there to receive their consent, it was a mere social contract. It did not have any bond of spiritual value existing between the man and the woman.
So how do we know if there's deceit? The man apparently has had a woman that, they were having an affair with at the wedding.
If the affair was still going on up to the time the marriage was held,
yes,
then the marriage is invalid. There was deceit. But if the woman only came just to attend the occasion of a man she had known before, she had an affair, it doesn't make the marriage invalid. But if the man was only contracting the marriage for contracting sake, and after the marriage he will continue in his affair with the woman he had been having relationship with, then he had a deceit in mind. He should have told the woman.
So now this presents a very interesting picture quickly, Padre, because we've run out of time. So many calls. If we are saying that at this point, this text, this message here, that this the marriage was not valid at that time.
Yes.
If this person realizes later, would the stance of the church still be the same?
The nullity will be given immediately.
Even after children, for instance?
Yes, nullity will be given. If the other partner says there was deceit and can prove it, nullity will be granted. And if the other partner seeks for nullity, to be granted.
And yet we have a situation where there was no deceit, maybe ab initio.
That was why I said there are conditions not known in that situation. Was the marriage, I didn't want to ask it from the beginning, was the marriage validly contracted? So many issues. But like this one is clear, that the man came to the marriage with someone he was having an affair with, or someone he was having an affair with attended the marriage. If that affair was still going on up to the point of the marriage, then, and the man has in mind to continue in the affair after the marriage, then there was deceit. He's supposed to have broken away completely with whomever, or broken away completely from whatever relationship he had, so that he can be now bound with this new spouse of his.
Okay.
And that if he did not, it makes the marriage invalid. If the spouse discovers later and applies to a marriage tribunal seeking nullity on that ground, it will be granted.
David Gideon says problems everywhere. God over everything. Isaac Land says, once again, Reverend Father, thank you. I'm deeply glad for your submission. Quite educative. We have less than 2 minutes. Let's go take your call. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, you're welcome, ma. Please
ask
your question quickly.
Yes. We have been talking so much on concerning the woman, the conscience, the man. What about the woman's peace of mind?
Okay.
I believe this woman that has been doing all this over the years, and suddenly her conscience begins to prick her, and she wants to confess.
Yes.
Don't we believe that the man or the Holy Spirit who has convicted her to want to confess?
Ma'am, if you are listening,
in the heart of the man.
If you have been listening, the father actually said that the priest even encourages that you do the right thing by confessing, but it is not an obligation.
The process, I know the process. I know it's a very dicey issue. The process we are talking. What I want to believe, the Bible is supreme. Is the final authority. This woman has been doing this to the extent of having 3 children, but certainly her conscience does not allow her to raise again, and she wants to confess. Don't we believe that for the sake of her peace of mind and for the sake of settling accounts with God, as the Bible will put it, we encourage her to confess, because we know that the Holy Spirit that has been working in her to want to confess now is the same Holy Spirit that can convince the man, that can work in the man to forgive her, so that this woman does not die and go to hell.
Thank you very much. We get your point. I think if you were listening once again, he said that the priest would even encourage that she should do the right thing. And in fact, at this point, if she is the one who has come forth to say, look, her conscience is pricking her, it is for the priest now, if it's a Catholic priest, for instance, it is for the priest to find a way to involve himself. In fact, he used the word Nathan, the Nathan approach, where after David took Bathsheba, I'm sure we all are conversant with that. Hello, good evening.
Hello, Madam. Yes. Good evening.
Good evening. Please, quickly, 30 seconds, your question.
What I want to ask Reverend Father is that, just like in Matthew 19, as he said,
yes,
I think a particular verse in Matthew 19 said, if a woman or a man is caught at that point of fornicating or adultery, that the opponent can...
Where in Matthew, please?
No, it's not Matthew.
Okay.
It's not even in the Bible.
Matthew 19.
It's not 19. That the whole of 19 never said anything like that.
I think it's a place that said if you caught the person at the act.
No, not caught.
You can apply for divorce or something like that.
No, it's not even at the act. Jesus said if a man commits, not caught, if a man commits porneia, I repeat again, fornication. That's the Greek word, fornication. It did not say adultery. Yes, on that grounds you can seek for divorce, and you don't commit fornication in marriage. It has to be adultery in marriage. Either the two parties involved in the sexual act are married, or one is married. I think at this point,
Father, we have to ask you for that history. You have to come back and give us
not
the history.
a problem. And please, I like our listeners this evening to please read John chapter 8. The story between Jesus, the elders, the community, and the woman caught in the act of adultery. What Jesus said to the woman. Let it be the biblical passage that should guide the conclusions people draw on the woman in our story of reflection of today. John chapter 8.
John chapter 8.
Yes.
All right, we've run out of time. The only thing I can promise you is that we will try to get Father George to come back and give us the history, because indeed Father George he's a doctor. I didn't mention that. He has his PhD in he has studied the Bible back and forth. Father, what did you major in your PhD?
Actually, for my master's I specialized on the New Testament, and then for my PhD on the Old Testament. I like the madness of the prophets, so I give more attention to the prophets for my PhD. Yes.
So I tell you, he knows the Bible. So I would love for you to come back. As you can see, the lines are buzzing, but the time is far spent, and this is where we'll have to thank Father George Odafe, like I said, the Dean of Studies at the Good Shepherd Seminary, for having come to talk to us. I know that we have quite a number of questions. I just want you quickly, Father Odafe, we still have at least 1 minute, to round up what you said, because from what we're getting, there are some misunderstandings.
Yes.
So please,
now, regarding
just what you said.
Osinachi case, the Catholic Church encourages separation when there's an abuse, and it is meant to create distance so that healing can be injected into the marriage and the reconciliation can be made, and it enables the two partners to understand where the problem really lies, and that will enable them to go forward, and then there'll be follow-up even after the process of reconciliation and re-entry into the marriage. Now, regarding the case of this poor woman, like I said, there are details that are not given that enable adequate counseling. The point is, if the woman has confessed, she's not obliged to tell the man, but the priest may encourage her to act in good conscience, and this is where it is required that the man is told, because moral issues are involved. The biological father of the children could come up in the future with problems, and on this note, the process of informing the man is very essential, because the value, the dignity and the sanctity of the marriage should be protected, especially if it is validly contracted. And here I recommend again the Nathan approach, 2 Samuel chapter 12. The prophet simply went to David and told him a parable, and he heard David's reaction, and on that basis he threw the point down. So the reaction of the man when that Nathan approach has been taken up, and it shouldn't be done by one single person. A respected person should be involved. Here, essentially a priest or a pastor. After having presented the story, then they go back to the drawing board and look for measures on how to inform the man. And like I said earlier, it has happened. This very story has happened somewhere in Port Harcourt, and it was resolved in this manner, and they're living peacefully and quietly. So this would be my recommendation, that a decent manner should be followed, and the woman should not be obliged, but should be encouraged. For her to have comfort shows that she's interested in letting the man know. For her to have comfort,
right?
That is one essential factor to be noted today, and I doff my heart for her. I respect her for that she has this interest in letting the man know. But in the process of telling the man, that is very essential here.
So such a woman had the will to tell the man should not be killed. It's just the process.
It's just exactly it's to encourage her to have come forward, because many have done it and kept quiet, and the men went to their graves not knowing. But for this woman to have done this means that the Spirit of God is at work in our heart. So she should be encouraged and the process be followed. I am confident that if a Catholic priest is involved, he will go to the man and he will look for ways and measures to resolve the matter. And if after feeling the man's reaction, he will come back and look for various ways in which the matter can gradually, in a soft manner, be made to land. And then it will help a lot, both partners and the children. Because we are talking of the man. We have forgotten the children. They are at stake here. Seriously at stake, and the way the issue is handled will determine what their future will be like.
Father George Odafe, Dean of Studies at the Good Shepherd Seminary, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You have really enriched us today, and hopefully, I know that a lot of people are still not happy with the stance or this biblical stance.
Yes.
But what is it that the Bible says, that let all men be liars and God be true, right?
Yes.
We cannot change the Bible.
Yes.
We might
in
not
fact,
like
Revelation chapter 22 says it. Nobody should add and subtract.
So we might not be happy with it, but because I see that a lot of people see their situations in this, and there are many questions that arise. So does this mean that people continue to sin and continue to go for absolution?
No. In fact, the church does not encourage repeated commission of an offense. And to tell you how serious it is, there's a way you repeatedly commit an offense. A priest may not grant you absolution the next time. He may ask you to come for a one-on-one discussion on the matter. That's to tell you how serious it is taken, so that it will begin the process of healing in the penitent. Because
if he is supposed to forget the minute you confess, how would he know if it's a repeated offense?
No, there's some have the conscience of telling background history coming from where it had been before. And then the priest may ask, have you confessed this before? How many times? So,
right.
And that is if he has the time, because in some parishes you may have up to 500 to 600 persons sitting at the confessional. But where you have ample time, this may come up and you tell the penitent that, please, I will not grant you absolution. Could we meet on this matter? If he says yes, then you meet, and then the discussion will be held. Then it is after that discussion and ways of finding a lasting healing on it is given, then absolution can follow.
We look forward to when we'll have Father George with history. We have way past the time, but we didn't even know. Until next week, when we hope to come your way on Marriage Keys once again, just remember that this is not a blank check for people to go and continue to sin. Indeed, was it Paul that asked Father, that said, do we continue to sin, and ask that grace?
Grace, and it should not be taken for granted, yes.
Should not be taken for granted. Yeah. Until next week, fan your love to flame. Try your best not to do anything that you would not be, that you would be ashamed of confessing to. Have a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you.